Hello, it's me, it's Elsidor. So as you may or may not have heard, The Boys Season 5, and The Boys, I guess, as a series, has finished. Was it a perfect season? By no means. Is it as bad as I believe the general reaction of the internet is hyping it up to be, like Homelander? God no. So let's get into it. First off, the negatives. The pacing, 100%, it's a problem, okay? Not only in the flow of the individual episodes, but over the span of the season. The build-up to the virus, essentially just to toss it away. Then going on an episodes-long V1 hunt, not the best pacing decision if you ask me. My hot take, my personal controversial opinion, is that if you just got rid of half of the crap in season 4, or pretty much everything that Frenchie did, and you just kind of slid the first half of season 5 back so that the virus was self-contained into season 4 as its own story, maybe in Gen V season 2 you could have built up V1 with Gandolkin and then had season 5 be about V1. I think that would have been way better, and you could have fleshed out the things in the later half of the season that felt like they were a little rushed. And hey, speaking of Gen V, I feel really bad for any true fans of Gen V that was really expecting a payoff to what they were building in that show, because they, again, Gen V just kind of says, hi, we're here, and then they say we don't want you, and then they drive away. And you know, sucks to be a Gen V fan, I guess. Say that 5 times fast. And speaking of spin-off shows, you also have the problem of their backdoor piloting Vought Rising a lot in this season, which has led to a lot of the discourse about pacing and a lot of the animosity online in the final season about, like, why is this in our final season? A lot of the discourse, a lot of the criticism I'm hearing about this season, in my opinion, isn't actually about the product we're getting on screen. It is about personal gripes with what fans' expectations of what they wanted to see on screen, of the big finale, of the big conclusion. I think the complaints are coming from expectation mismanagement instead of an actual honest review and reaction of what we got on screen. Because I will die on the hill of, this is good TV. This is definitely better than season 4 of The Boys. Like, this is the strongest it's been in a really long time. And I enjoyed the ride the whole way through. Again, not without its problems, but I did enjoy the ride, considering what The Boys is and always has been. So with all that being said, I'm gonna go into more like hyper focus on some specific hot topic issues. I guess kind of defend them. I guess, I don't know. I'm just gonna talk about discourse I've heard, give my 2 cents on them, and yeah, we're gonna start with the Vought Rising stuff. And it's true, Vought Rising couldn't get its fingerprints off the show, and most of the V1 hunt was inadvertently spent monkey barring to Amazon's hopeful next cash cow. And, you know, a lot of the time spent on Soldier Boy's past in an 8-episode season of your final season doesn't seem too relevant, I guess, to the criticism. Again, they wanted to see more scorched earth. They wanted to see more of a climax, I guess. But thematically, I think what we get with Soldier Boy and Homelander in the settings of his past is actually very relevant. Take away the fact that Fort Harmony has this weird Vine soup guy that's literally just there to go, hey, don't you wish you knew how him and Soldier Boy related? Just pretend he isn't there making everybody angry at each other. Just going to Fort Harmony is already such a cool place for Soldier Boy and Homelander to go, because Fort Harmony is like where Soldier Boy was tested on, where Soldier Boy was treated the most inhumanely, where him and Homelander could connect the most, if that makes sense. And I found that very fascinating, and seeing the differences of how they reacted, like seeing him see the chamber he was experimented on, Homelander looking at it, the little looks they gave each other. It was nice to see the nuance of their relationship beginning to be explored, and I liked it in that setting. Now, they do spend way too much time just talking about Bombsight. I'll give you that. I wish we got Bombsight a little sooner. But what we get with Bombsight and his dynamic with Geisha and how it affects our characters and their dilemma of whether they would want V1 to make themselves immortal to survive the virus, but their whole little love story going on here is one is immortal and one refuses to be, because she's like, the flowers are only beautiful because they die, and he's like, forever young, I wanna be forever young. And that's really engaging, heartfelt conflict that is relevant not only to the little MacGuffin story it got going on, but is also very relevant to the themes of the character dynamics. So yeah, it was fantastic television. I have no idea why anybody had any complaints about that stuff. And although, yeah, it is set up, it's not as down your throat as Mr. Vine guy, and the dynamic between Soldier Boy and Bombsight it's cool, it's fun, it's awesome. It was a good fight. The little negotiation into the mercy kill, like Soldier Boy showing the hints that actually being kind, making a choice with love, is a way you can harness your little power blast. But anyway, him doing that for Bombsight was very interesting TV, and makes his character even cooler that he can get what he wants without punching his way through it. Do you think Homelander would be capable of negotiating with anybody and letting them walk to get what he wants unless they treated him like unless they were the legend? I don't think so. Was there pacing problems? 100%. Should Soldier Boy spent that long looking at that photo? Like, you know what I mean? But I still think thematically, especially with the theme of love through this season, familial love, romantic love, that the shades of Soldier Boy's past are extremely important, because it highlights the difference between him and Homelander is that Soldier Boy at least once was human. He has emotions. He knows what it's like to dance, as Frenchie would say. And highlighting that, I think, is super important to why they clash, but also the bonds they do have as this messed up father and son are also really fun to explore. So I was happy, I guess, in a way, for Vought Rising, because it gave us all these settings to get good America's favorite father and son duo explored. Will I watch Vought Rising? I mean, probably. I like this world. I watched all of Gen V. I can't say I'm particularly excited for it. Like, I can't say seeing Bombsight in this show, like, I can't say anything in the show actually made me more excited for it, or not. I'm just, it did feel like an odd inclusion if you're considering the overarching problem of why is this taking place when it's taking place with as many episodes as you have left. But again, for what we got on screen, like, pacing issues aside, good television. Okay, I feel like I've got all of my Vought Rising stuff out of me. I might talk a little bit more about my prediction for what that show's actually going to look like at the end of the video, so if you care about that, stick around. But for now, let's talk about Sage, okay? It would appear to me that no one can agree on what it means to be the smartest person in the world. Apparently it means every single detail of every plan you ever make must work every single time. But I think there is a confusion between being smart and being goddamn omnipotent, okay? In the MCU, for a long time, Iron Man is considered the smartest person in the world, and yet he accidentally created a murder bot, hellbent on destroying the world, Marvel's neighbor, DC, in their cinematic universe, they're talking up Lex Luthor as the smartest man in the world, and he is the villain of that movie. I think that's a pretty good example that being smart does not always mean being right. What I'm getting at is smartest person in the world. And who is Sister Sage as a person? What has the universe told us about Sister Sage? She is a traumatized person deprived of love. Her powers pushed away her parents when she was 3, and shortly after that, she loses the only person who ever really did love her, her grandma. She died of cancer because the cure she came up with, big gov, big corporation, big pharma, wouldn't let her sell it. Then she gets put through the Red River system, and of course she has no clue how to comprehend love. Of course it makes no goddamn sense to her, because love doesn't make sense to any of us! Love makes people do stupid and rational things all the time. Through Sage's own experience, through the deep wounds we see with her self-medicating all the damn time, the series has told us, and even the spin-off has told us, in Gen V, we saw her in a relationship, and we saw her blinded by love. She asked Godolkin to move in with her. Godolkin was supposed to be in the bunker with her, and she was betrayed by love. She was blinded by love as the smartest, air quotes, person in the world, because being smart does not mean understanding emotion. Of course, it's just a variable she cannot really account for, especially when it's between Homelander and Soldier Boy, and especially when it's not even about Soldier Boy's love for Homelander, but did I almost say Hamlander there? But for their love for Clara, for this woman in the middle who I'm pretty sure is Homelander's mother. And I think Soldier Boy knows that, but I don't think Homelander knows that, and I don't think Sage would know that. I think that's only a secret Soldier Boy would know, which is, how could Sage have predicted that? Her plans, though not flawless, she's proven she's smart, she's proven her ability to adapt, her ability to stay alive around Homelander is commendable, but she's never been able to predict love. We saw it in her own relationships, and now we're seeing it in the most hyper-extreme situation, and of course she can't understand these weird, messed up, narcissist, egotistical versions of love, when it's not even about their love for each other, it's about the love for this woman in the middle, with a big secret around it. Like, Lex Luthor doesn't understand love either. That's why him and Superman fight, because he cannot comprehend that Superman's capable of it. And I heard no complaints that Lex Luthor was the smartest man in the world and Superman and his plan failed. So I don't get it with Sage. I don't get the same criticism here. Her ultimate goal of just reading the Doomsday Away, it's a choice for sure, but if you never truly knew love, and you were constantly hated or needed because of how smart you were, wouldn't you want to escape the noise too? I guess I just don't understand why she's become such a problem in the discourse online. I genuinely believe all of her actions and the results of them make sense based on who the show's told us she is and what she's experienced. This show, and especially this penultimate season, got accused of filler a lot, and as we agreed, you get rid of season 4 Frenchie, slide this season, back down the chain, give the rest some more room to breathe, then it would have been fine. But if the viewer has an internal dialogue that the finale is coming and that this should be more awesome because in 2 more episodes there's no more of this, that is a very easy way to ruin your viewing experience of anything. This show has always been about exploring the world built under the foot of Vought and the scars it leaves on the people in its wake. It has never been about big superhero fights or the spectacle of it all. It's always been about the emotional wounds and dynamics of this world under Vought. And the show, through all of its show, but especially in the season, is the final season, it's been about love and how your relationship with love can make or break you in such a cruel world. Again, what happened to Becca and what happens to Robin is adjacent, like a superhero ruins the love life of a male character, but one's upbringing was so deprived of love that he becomes this bitter, chaotic man, while the others had a loving life, so he stays optimistic the whole way through. It literally is what they talked about in their final conversation. Butcher never changed Huey despite everything that Huey endured, and that's because Huey had a good relationship with love. And it's the characters in the show that are deprived of love the most, that are the most inhuman, like Homelander, like Butcher, like Sage. The list goes on and on and on. And arcs like Starlight visiting her father and essentially asking why he didn't fight for her more. That parallels last season when Homelander went down to his old testing chambers as far as the emotional catharsis the characters come looking for. However, one of them, at least by comparison, leads a very normal life, has genuine love, and is there for genuine perspective, while the other has never experienced love. The closest thing to it was emotional manipulation, and when he goes home, he doesn't go to understand, he goes to avenge his younger self. Both are pulling from the same emotional well, but the show uses its characters' perseverance or corruption of love to show how all the vastly different characters are scarred by the corporate machine. Again, Homelander and Starlight's scars are both from Vought, they're both from Compound V, but because of love in their lives, one's a villain and one's a hero. So I didn't mind at all that our last season was spending significant time to explain each of our characters' emotional states and how this world has affected them, and how Vought is affecting them, and now how Homelander and his egotistical, narcissistical control of Vought is affecting them, and how they either persevere or crumble because of their relationships to love and their willingness to either hold on to love or forego it completely. My cat has now jumped on my lap, so if you hear her, I'm sorry. But I've seen complaints about the church propaganda angle and the time they spend focused on it. But hey, at least the musical number is thematically relevant this season. Looking at you, Vought Ice. The show is about corporations and propaganda. The first season was hinged on Vought trying to convince the world that Supes should be in the military. They control the Supes, they get rich. So propagating Homelander to the world as this new and improved god is a hard sell and deserves its screen time and proper build-up. As we saw in Season 4, Homelander's too naive to deal with the conglomerates, the billionaires that fund the world he wants to rule, and his patience for the world he has to convince is growing thinner and thinner until it snaps. And speaking of snaps, a big complaint was we didn't get to see him unleash on the non-believers, and that's lit a whole like a whole bonfire online of dialogue, and that'll be dealt with shortly, don't worry. But if we did the little goodbye Frenchie Season 4 plan, maybe there would have been a little more time for the idea in the finale to finally feel fleshed out, right? You could have given Homelander his non-believer arc, you could have got that out of the way with the V1 build-up, and then you could have had confrontation time and still had time for your epilogue. The mapping of Season 4, I think, Season 4 felt like such filler to me because it felt like they knew where they wanted to end and they just didn't know how to get there, so it felt like, anyway, what I'm trying to say is Was it rushed? Yes. But was it a waste of time? No. Okay? The virus has scared Homelander. We've seen Homelander be scared that he can be touched. He sees that there's a way that he could be immortal. And we see what immortality, the hope of immortality, does to a narcissist. And that V1 hunt is very important build-up for the ego of Homelander. And just to see him immediately switch back to just as scared when he sees Kimiko's chest blast and he realizes he can be hurt again. It was not a waste of time. I thought it was very good and important stuff and good character work, but again, rushed story beats nonetheless. Okay, but let's hone in on that final episode, okay? And yeah, it wasn't great, but going into it, I wasn't expecting absolute cinema or anything. I knew where the story was, the threads that were open, and that to properly tie the bow up, they'd probably have to do a rush job on a few of those threads and a few of the comeuppances that were due. And yeah, that sucked. Personally, as satisfying as the Homelander final blow was, I did really expect to see the people turn on him. I figured they would depower him, so I thought the crowd would like stomp him to death to end it, but this show has never lied to you about who Homelander is. He is a narcissistic baby man, and the worst person to have the powers of Superman. That being said, he's always been portrayed as a coward. A coward when he knows he can be hurt, or when he's facing these emotionally difficult moments. And facing his non-believers is something that would break him or hurt him deep down. And again, he's a very sensitive man. He's a man with no backbone. Of course, he is sending other people to cull his herd for him. He can't stand to see the actual reality in front of him. That being, he's goddamn lucky anybody would think he's God. His collapse into complete desperation and depravity was so very satisfying to finally see, and so many of the good people who have died to his hand have said to his face that he is nothing. If we did the Goodbye Season 4 Frenchie plan, maybe we could have actually seen Homelander get a little more global with his scorched earth, but again, he's a narcissist man, baby. He was excited Butcher was there until he realized Butcher could hurt him, and as Frenchie said, he's never danced in his life. Okay? Titan's crash outs are emotionally warranted because he has real jealousy to pull from. Homelander is nothing but a hollow shell, a puffed chest of deflection to hide the crushed soul behind it. I never believe we truly see Homelander unleashed, whether because he was stopped or his own insecurities never allowed him to. I didn't believe the narcissist, so I was not upset when what the narcissist told me would happen didn't happen. And there's a part of me within me that is torn, okay? I'm torn on whether I wish the epilogue and the boys dealing with the virus and Butcher going his own version of Scorched Earth with its own episode or not. Like, if they killed Homelander, cut to black, and we get a whole episode of the aftermath. But one, I think an episode with no Hamlander, I did it again, with no Homelander, would feel so very off. And two, I like that this beat didn't overstay its welcome. Of course Ryan wants nothing to do with Butcher. He didn't come for Butcher. He came to stop Homelander. And terror, being the last thing to potentially ground Butcher's future going forward, being gone is a good reason for him to go off the deep end. It being only him and Huey too, I thought it was a fantastic touch. They have truly always been the heart of this show. They were what got everybody hooked to the show in the first place. It was never Homelander's show. It's the boys, after all. And Butcher essentially going on a suicide mission because he has nothing to live for makes sense for his character. Though on first viewing again, the pacing really skips through, like this terror dies and he goes right to the virus time without a word spoken. And if you aren't thinking too hard about the subtext, I can understand your confusion. And if you are thinking too hard about the subtext, I can understand your dissatisfaction that the subtext wasn't explored to further depth. But yeah, no more The Boys, huh? My theory, or I guess hope, at some point is Vought Rising is going to connect to the present timeline and explore the rebirth of Vought in the post-Homelander era. The show has always been about the company. The Supes are their product, and seeing Stan Edgar as CEO again got me itching for more of this world explored. However disjointed the season was, I guarantee it is better than what The Boys has been, and in my opinion, is some of the best The Boys has to offer when it's in its stride. And a lot of the criticism comes from audience expectation and not remembering what this show actually is. I'd probably say it's my third favorite season, behind season 1 and 3. It's probably somewhere in a toss-up between season 3. I have to go back and rewatch it. Let me know if you'd want to see a video like that. But the show like, you can't tell me you had the most off the world expectations for the season, knowing what season 4 was. I know they gave us a really cool cliffhanger at the end, but do you remember what season 4 was? And does part of me wish for some bigger bangs of a finale? Sure, but like, compare this to Stranger Things. We had people die. It was a fun ride the whole way through. All the actual storylines felt like they went somewhere and built to something. So I thought it was good television. I was happy week by week, and episode after episode, I was happy with what I saw. I'd probably rate this season of TV somewhere to a 7 or 8 out of 10. So here's to the future. Well, I guess the past. But yeah, I guess that's all I gotta say. See ya. Bye.